hope you're all well. We're off again another day. So I thought it would be interesting for us to take pause and see where we are, or where I think we are, as usual. You don't have to listen to a word I say. It's been a funny couple of days. We have seen a number of things happen which have caused a rift, a schism. No, they haven't really. They've caused disagreement, and that's okay, between people in the GC movement, or those who work wider than that, in the movement against the critical social justice mob that has waylaid and misdirected our society in so many ways, including in the difference between a man and a woman, in what racism really is, and in extremism around environmentalism. There are many elements to critical social justice: fat studies, queer studies, all of those types of things. Critical fat studies, critical queer studies, all of these different things that make up what is essentially a hard left ideology. This sticks in the craw of many people because it's the left, and understandably many of the people that are in the GC movement are left, and most of them women. I always say, and I still stand by the fact, that the left is responsible for the majority of this, but that the right will end it in a very short period of time, the hard right, if we're not careful. It isn't that you as individuals have left the left, it's that the left has left you. So it seems that a little micro-teach type thing might be something that would perhaps give you some pause for thought. I don't do this to be condescending. I don't do this because I think I'm superior, despite the fact, of course, that I blatantly am. No, I'm kidding, right? I'm not doing it for that either. I'm doing it because it helps me get my thoughts together, as much as I hope maybe me doing some mulling will help people think about things as well. The problem we've got is this, as I see it. Critical social justice, which includes gender identity ideology, queer theory, extreme environmentalism, and all of the other rubbish that's come out of the academic bum pipe, right? It includes all that. And the problem with it is so overarching as a template that it's placed upon society, and it's done so from a position of top down. Somebody came along and went, right, we're going to do this, let's do this, right? Which starts with the most innocuous of stuff, okay? When you look at it as a long process, the most innocuous of stuff. My warrior teachers laugh at me because I always say, well, I blame Challenge 25. They should never have been allowed to get away with that. Going beyond the law. When they went beyond the law with the first thing, which was Challenge 25, that's where it started, right? I know, sounds nuts, doesn't it? Maybe I am. But this idea of going beyond the law came from this top-down imposition. And Stonewall ran with it, and other organisations ran with other things. Advance HE, UKRI, Universities UK, and most of the others that are involved in the imposition of this top-down belief system that is critical social justice. We, on the other hand, are a hodgepodge and a strange meeting, or collaboration thereof, of people who are from all over the political spectrum, who can be deeply religious or deeply irreligious, I'm thinking me, right? And we've come together out of nowhere in response to the top-down imposition of critical social justice. When I first became interested in doing things on YouTube, and like I'm doing with you now, I went on Graham Linehan's chat with him on a YouTube chat with Graham I had, in which I said essentially exactly the same thing as I've just said to you, that this is a top-down imposition. What we have to understand, I think, and this is what I ponder, is that a top-down imposition is a blob. It's one thing. It is a blob that has its followers and its believers and its high priests and acolytes and adherents, while they attempt to place this over our society and replace what we had previously with a new way of living. They genuinely think they have a change paradigm, a big shift. People went, I don't think so. No, we're not having that. This is why we're known as Turf Island, because we've attacked that one side of it, the one side of it which is transgender ideology. We've attacked that so successfully. But we're still, nevertheless, a loose collaboration. So along come people from the left and people from the right and people from the middle, and we all sort of find ourselves jostling together to try and find out what it is that we believe and what we can push forward on one particular issue. Yeah? So imagine the blob, which is just one thing, put over the top of our society, and then you've got all of us getting together in little groups. And then suddenly those little groups become bigger groups, and then those bigger groups split, and the little groups split, and off we go. And then we join up with somebody else. So we're doing this kind of, hello, yes, I agree, no, I don't agree. And off you go, and then we're coming back together again. We are, in other words, in a constant state of storming. I used to like him because he said X. I used to like her because she said X. We're constantly in a state of storming, whereas the blob's sitting there going, we're not changing. We're not changing. Because the blob is the massive truck coming down the road, and we are the tacks on the floor, on the road, that hope to be able to burst its tyres and slow it down. That's what we are. This is perfectly normal, and it is a good sign when we disagree. It's a good sign, because it means we're honing our game. We're honing our game. So we've had a couple of disagreements this week, haven't we? In that Kelly J, fighter extraordinaire for the rights of women to speak, made a statement saying she wants to be able to discriminate against people. She wants to be able to discriminate specifically against trans people, whatever that may be. In other words, cross-dressing men or whatever. And then we had Michael Ferran, who I have the greatest of respect for, who works in the legal field, came out and said the following. Increasingly irritated by the sloganeering that there is no such thing as trans. You don't need to believe all of the claims a group of people make about themselves to accept that there is a category of people who hold those beliefs. It's like saying there is no such thing as Christianity, only people who believe in the resurrection, but it didn't actually happen, so they're not Christian. Or constantly demanding that people define Christian every time someone says anything about Christians. It is in a perfectly neutral way you can define trans as an umbrella category for people who believe in gender identity theory and who identify as something other than their sex with varying degrees of medical attempt to alter sex characteristics. It's not hard to define. And I read that and immediately went, goodness me, Michael, on this particular thing, and the only thing I know of that you've waded in on, you are wrong on so many levels, it's unreal. And I think I'm not the only one that thinks that. It is also possible to think that Michael is wrong and that Kelly J. Keane is also wrong. That they have both erred. And that, for your consideration, is what I want you to think about. Why they are both wrong. So, to aid that thinking, I'm just going to, let's do a little exercise and see where it takes us. Firstly, become a warrior teacher. Come and join us, right? Because this is the sort of stuff we get to grips with. And secondly, to my Substack followers, this is open to everybody, because I thought it was an important one. So I hope you'll forgive me. Right. When the Warrior Teacher Program started, there was these women, these wonderful women, all of whom have lost children or were struggling with children who believed in this belief system that Michael says we can actually recognise. Whereas I don't think what Michael's saying is we recognise there's such a thing as trans people at all. I think he's just giving a designation to a group of people, like you would say, those were the Scopsy, right? Or those were the Moonies. That's all he's doing. He's not defining what trans is at all. He's just giving it a designation. They wouldn't be necessarily happy about that one either, Michael. That's a difficult thing, right? So for these wonderful women that were on my Warrior Teacher Program when I got started, we're now heading to the end of year 2, and they've asked for year 3 of the Warrior Teacher Program. They're wonderful. So I'm writing year 3. Okay? And I came across something wonderful, which you can go and look up if you like. I'll stick a picture up of it so you know what I'm talking about, right? So think about what I've said so far. Do keep up. It's only 10 minutes. There was such a thing as the mould cape, M-O-L-D, the mould cape, which was discovered long before, which was made long before Tutankhamun's beautiful mask, which I've seen in real life. That boy, does that have, that says something. You know, when you see something that old, it really does give you, it gives you a frisson. And this mold cape is a beautiful piece of work when you consider how old it is, thousands of years old. And it's got similar markings to the sort of thing you see on Tutankhamun's mask, even though these people would never have met. So there's something human about production, about the production of something artistic and beautiful. And this was this thing called the mold cape, the picture of which you can see on the screen now. I know you're sitting there going, where's he going with this? Just hang on, right? So I got thinking then, okay, so we're looking in year 3 at human organisation and how humans organise themselves over time. Right? So in order for this mold, do an exercise in your head. In order for this mold cape to be made, what had to take place? That's an interesting question. So what had to take place was they had to mine the gold. Mining's not a safe thing. You know that, right? It's not a safe thing. So they had to mine gold. In order to be able to work gold, they would have to have mined coal or burnt an awful lot of wood, in which case they would have needed people that understood how to be a lumberjack and people who understood how to mine. Then they had to have people that understood how to make tools in order to do those jobs, and people who understand what tools they had to make in order to be able to make the cape look like it did. So then they had to have somebody who could do that job and do it well. And then they had to have somebody who would make sure that the troops, you know, not literally, but the troops that were putting all this together in order to make this wonderful mold cape were able to keep working. So there'd have been people that have gone, right, we need to get some food. Look, there's 120 workers today, so we're going to need to get some, right. Then they needed to have somebody who could manage those people and get people to work together in order to do the job to make the mold cape. Thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago. That's what would have happened. An organisational undertaking that required the greatest collaboration to achieve. In which case, my argument is, in this particular respect, that ability to organise, to come together, to produce something so beautiful as the mold cape, and to produce it at times when the technology we have now would simply have been magic to the people that were doing it, means that we have an argument that competency, the ability to do something and do it well, and meritocracy, which is the ability to find the best person to do that and do it well, was alive and kicking thousands of years ago, at a time when the words competency and meritocracy probably didn't exist. In which case, competency and meritocracy are not just something we decide we're going to do, they are innately human. Okay, now put that to one side, that competency and meritocracy are innately human. Years ago, they discovered a body, the body of a chap in a cave, a Neanderthal called Shenendar. Shenendar, they discovered through their investigations, and now using technology today, was a deeply disabled individual. He was unable to hunt for himself. He was unable to look after himself in any way. But when they examined his bones, they found that he lived to be in his mid-50s, which means that Neanderthals took care of it. That tells us that our society, their society, were compassionate. Which means compassion isn't just a human thing, because Neanderthals were compassionate. So on one side, you've got competency, meritocracy, let's get the job done, let's produce the mold cape. And on the other, you've got, hang on a minute, Bob's not well. Somebody go and look after Bob, get him some breakfast. We'll carry on making the mold cape. This is the best of humanity illustrated by two things from the past, the body of a Neanderthal and the mold cape. Competency, meritocracy, and compassion. And when Kelly and Michael talk about the arena they're talking about, which is in the toleration of the intolerable, because trans, gender identity ideology, queer theory, critical race theory, critical fat studies, and everything that comes with it, is undoubtedly harmful to our society as a whole. Undoubtedly. The evidence is clear that it is harmful to our society as a whole. And what we have to remember is that the entire critical social justice movement is intent upon bringing in equity, is intent upon bringing in a bureaucratic monster that will measure to ensure that everybody gets the same outcome and that everybody has no boundaries and that everybody has to believe that things are constructed socially, which in fact flies in the face of the story of the Mould Cape and also flies in the face of the story of Shenandoah. Because true compassion would never tolerate the behaviour of critical social justice. Never. Not once, because it has no time for the individual. It is top-down imposition, and we are bottom-up collaboration. And I think, if I'd been Kelly J. Keane, I would want to say that I wouldn't discriminate against somebody because they're trans. I'd discriminate against them because they're a critical social justice activist. And all you're doing is going one step above it, because they are the antithesis of what it means to be a human. Competency, meritocracy, and compassion. They are the antithesis of that. And if they are the antithesis of that, they can be easily identified in a good recruitment program and a good recruitment process. And by doing so, you are able to ask questions at that recruitment process, which means that you won't get any critical social justice warrior, regardless of whether they're black, white, pink, blue, think they're trans, gay, straight, Christian, Buddhist, Islamist, whatever it may be. You aren't not taking them because of their belief in religion. You aren't not taking them because of their belief in a gendered soul slipped into a sack of flesh. You aren't taking them because of that. And you aren't not taking them because they believe that there should be no boundaries. And that the most important thing is to break down the boundary between adult and child, and also to tolerate incest, which is queer theory, by the way. You're not taking them because of any of that. You're not taking them because belief in any of those things automatically marks you as incompetent. And if you are an organisation or a business, you have a set of things you have to achieve. I need to get more people on my Warrior Teacher Programme, or I go out of business. If I'm not competent at doing that, I go out of business. Okay? If I'm providing service in the NHS, I need to be competent in what I'm doing, or I shouldn't be in the job. If I'm somebody who is setting out to sell cakes, I need to be competent at baking cake. It doesn't matter what you are doing. When these people enter your organisation with their CSJ framework, their blob they are going to lay over it, we know that your organisation is done. I've seen this happen at the highest levels with centres for doctoral training, where they've let them in. The highest levels. So I think that Michael and Kelly, which both prompted, thank you both of you for prompting this thought that I've had, are wrong. I think you're both wrong, but I think you're both right. In that Michael is able to say there is a designation which still does not give us what trans is. It only designates those individuals to a category, and Michael says that in his original tweet. And Kelly J. Keane is absolutely right in that we should, when it comes to the workplace, be able to keep people out whose sole purpose is to get in and disrupt your business. And we're not doing it because they have a belief system. We're doing it because culturally, which is above politics, by the way, and that's where we play. It very rarely falls down into the political. Because politics is downstream of culture. Downstream of culture. Now, we then have a situation where Sex Matters have come out and made a statement about where they stand and where exactly they are. This is great stuff. We need this so we can understand where they are. They are a charity, therefore they are constrained by their particular articles, which is fine. That's okay, right? If that means that's what it is, and what Sex Matters said was, look, if you want to go away and repeal the GRA, go ahead and do it. We then find people that are competent to do that, and we build something that does it, because that isn't Sex Matters as I see it. That's not what they are as I see it. Okay? And all of this behaviour, all of this stuff I'm talking about, is essentially what I'd expect to see in a collaborative endeavour made up of people who have found each other in order to change something. Not by a group of people who have been recruited by a cult in order to disrupt our society. Remember, I say, competency, meritocracy, compassion. They aren't just a human thing. They're a life thing. This belief system is anti-life. And if you want to keep people out of your organisations that believe in this, then you have to make sure that you've got your competency framework right, your interview process right, your questions right, in order to do so. And there is absolutely nothing, I think, in that breaks the law, because they would not be a cultural fit for your organisation. And that, ladies and germs, may well be the only excuse you need. So I'll now wait for somebody to tear this apart. And then we'll come together again and off we go. Don't get despondent. This is perfectly normal, I think. So for your consideration, the last 20 minutes of my Baffle Gap. It's good to see and speak to all of you. Thank you very much indeed. Go and have a mull. Bye-bye.